Up the Rovers.
Welcome along to the episode 2 of Up the Rovers podcast. I'm your host, Darren Harper. Thank you very much for joining us for our second episode. We're now into 2021. And make sure, of course, you like, subscribe and do all of that gubbins to get the very latest news coming out of the Millennium Stadium. Big thanks, of course, to our main club partners, KP, Millennium Support, Went Valley Aggregates, Wakefield AFC. And this is an LS11 Proper Sport production for the Up the Rovers podcast. So we've got a couple of guests on this episode, which I know you're going to want to hear from. First of all, it is the full-time strength and conditioning coach for Featherstone Rovers, and that is Greg Stebbings. How are you going, Greg?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. Alongside yourself, we've got the Rovers head coach on this episode, and that's James Webster. How are you doing, Webbo?
Good, yourself?
Yes, not too bad at all. Thanks very much, for guys, for joining us on episode 2. Loads to get through on this particular episode. We'll be talking lockdown, we'll be talking injuries, we'll look at the 2021 season, recruitment and pre-season training. Lots more to come.
Up the Rovers, the official Featherstone Rovers podcast.
Well, I suppose that there is probably only one way to start, isn't there, really? Just when you thought everything was looking hunky-dory, another lockdown comes into place. James, come to you first of all. I mean, disappointing, obviously, that we've gone back into this. What were your thoughts? Because it sort of came... I think most people thought that we were going to go into a lockdown, but then it sort of like was pretty sharpish, wasn't it?
Yeah, obviously... I think it was a Wednesday night when Boris decided that Monday night that we'll be going into lockdown, and what sort of ramifications that had on elite sport, we were waiting to find out. And after reading the detail, it seemed that elite sport was considered to be okay to continue on to training. So we were all prepared to continue on. Late Tuesday afternoon, we found out that for the Championship in League One, that wasn't the case. And in saying that, why we're disappointed, we understand there's a bigger situation going on at the moment than rugby league, and we support whatever the government and the local authorities are trying to do to keep everyone as safe as possible.
And Greg, during last lockdown, I would imagine, because I was remembering on the first episode we were chatting with Dav about the last game that Fev played, and I think it was the Hunslet game, if memory serves correctly. And then obviously the lockdown came in. I suppose your job, trying to keep rugby league players fit during a lockdown when, there's bars of Toblerone in the cupboard that are, calling them. I would imagine that would have been quite difficult.
Yeah, it has to be fair. It's been a challenge that never really prepared to do, really. So obviously from last April, we've been trying to do our best, and we started like an house on fire April 2020, and then once we realised that lockdown was going on a lot longer than the initial 5 weeks they said, we sort of dialed back a bit because we knew we had to, and then we started like quite sensibly back in November, happy to be there, and then again, just as we're getting into the swing of things after Christmas, that we ended up locking down again. But like Webber said, it pales into insignificance when everything's going on around in the community, and first and foremost the safety of our players and their families and everyone else in Featherstone and the UK is the most important thing. Yeah,
exactly. And Greg, is it easier this time around? Now you've sort of like gone through that first lockdown. Is it easier than this time because you've got those sort of like plans in place to what you did with the players the last time?
In some sense, yes, it is easier. We've managed. Obviously, like Webber said, the announcement came Monday, and we were, for all intents and purposes, ready to train Tuesday night. And we got an email at about 4:00 saying that no can do, but I was already on site. So we managed to get as much kit out to the lads as possible on Tuesday night. We ended up with, barring the travellers from Lancashire and Hull, obviously, because that's not allowed. It wasn't allowed at the time. We got enough kit to all the players, whereas in the immediate aftermath of the first lockdown back in 2020, that's something that we couldn't do. So we had to almost work around just what they had to hand. So you're talking filling rucksacks up with books or bodyweight exercises, things like that. Whereas this time around, the lads know the script. We know what we can sort of prescribe because we know they took X, Y, and Z from the facility, and that's a real bonus that we've got at Featherstone because they've obviously invested in the facility at the club, and we've got some kit that we can hand out to keep everyone ticking over as best we can in the meantime.
I suppose, Webber, motivation's like the hardest part of all of this because, last lockdown, we didn't know whether or not the league was going to continue, and obviously it didn't in the end, but was it hard to sort of like keep yourself and everyone else motivated to hopefully get back to playing again?
Yeah, the last lockdown, there seemed to be a lot of false dawns, really. We always thought, we're only a couple of weeks away from starting again. In saying that, I thought the boys handled themselves really well, and Greg did a really good job with them. We were able to monitor their training through some apps, and also Ponty Park. A lot of the boys met up. Once you were allowed to train in groups of 6, boys used to meet up and do some training. So I actually think we were probably in a better shape, towards the back end of the lockdown than we were mid-pre-season, in that we didn't have a great pre-season, and a lot of people had operations and people got married, and there was a massive hangover from the previous year's grand final. So I thought we were probably in better shape at middle to the end of that lockdown than we were at the start of the year. So we were really keen to get started, and obviously really disappointed that we were never able to get that done.
And hopefully things will turn out okay this time round, and we'll be able to get some rugby in very shortly. I wanted to talk about like your journeys into Featherstone Rovers as well, because I always think it's interesting to sort of like find out how you sort of like come to the club. If we start with you, Greg, now obviously you joined with John Duffy. You've worked under 3 different coaches right now. How does Webbo compare to the other 2?
Oh, they're all different. As coaches, but they're all good blokes. Obviously, I think I'm the bad omen. Really, I'm the last one standing. They must be thinking I'm stabbing him in the back or something. But I got to the club with John, and then obviously John left for Lee, and then Ryan Carr came in for that single season, and then obviously Webbo's come. But I enjoy working with Webbo. We have a good relationship. He's definitely more relaxed than the other 2. Which has been a nice change for me in some circumstances, but he trusts me with my job and lets me get on with it, and that's all I can ask for, really.
So, what I've got you, Greg, how did you get into this line of work? Was this always sort of like the passion and what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I'd say so. This sounds really nerdy, but from about college time, I picked my options at college knowing that I wanted to do sports science at university, and then from there, I went to Sheffield Hallam, did sports science undergrad, stayed on for an extra year for the MSc, and then around that time, I knew John Duffy outside of rugby. He'd obviously just finished playing and was working in the community arm of Lee Centurions. He got offered the Swinton gig, and it was just a case of who you know, not what you know, and right place, right time. And just got straight into rugby league. I did a little bit of work at the Bolton Wanderers in a pre-season in the football in the academy, but that was very little considering how the overlap came. It was when Swinton got relegated due to the restructure, when 5 teams went down to League One, the Keighley's and things like that. And obviously that was the back end of a summer season in rugby league. So I didn't have a long in football, but that's how I got into rugby league, really. Yeah, straight off the bat from uni.
And James, your road into Featherstone Rovers, obviously, an illustrious playing career. What was obviously you started over here in Hull KR as a player, initially way back in 2005. What was the carrot that brought you over to the UK? Was it always sort of a passion to come over and play in the UK?
Yeah, I first looked at it back end of 2004 when I was at Parramatta. London Broncos inquired would I like to come, and they actually offered me a contract for the end of the season. I think there might have been maybe 8 games left, but there was no guarantee of another year as contract, and they were also fighting to try and stay up. So I didn't take that deal, and I was running out of the contract at Parramatta. Brian Smith offered me a deal to stay on, but more as a probably captain coach of reserve grade, to tell you the truth. Jason Taylor was the coach of that, but he would also have to travel away. You do a lot of travelling in Australia. So when he wouldn't be away there, I would captain coach the side. So I was in Mexico, believe it or not, end of season trip away, and I got a call from Harvey Howard, and I spoke to Brian about it. And as Brian coached in Hull, he said it would be a really good move for you. And I came for 1 year, and here I am 15, 16 years later, obviously still in the UK.
You're not missing the weather, though.
It's freezing at the moment, isn't it? I struggle in winter. I'm not going to lie. Any person who's grown up with the nice warm weather, England's a fantastic country, and I've met some great people, and obviously met my wife, and my children have been born here. So, England's done a lot of fantastic things for me. But summer's obviously a lot easier place and a lot more enjoyable than it can be in winter at times.
And, what your time at Hull KR, you had another Australian obviously coaching you there, Justin Morgan, at that time. There was a few Australians in that team. Was that one of the reasons why you sort of like kept around Hull KR and over in East Yorkshire? Obviously Justin wasn't the coach at the time when I came. It was Harvey, and Harvey left, and I had the captain coach for 3 months, I suppose, until Justin was able to get out of his contract in Toulouse at the time and come coaches. We had some great times. Teams always remember, good moments, and we were on the up at the time. We were a championship team that was a big championship team that was probably in the doldrums for a long period of time, and we were able to win a couple of cups and make a Challenge Cup semi-final and also get promoted all within a short period of time. So it was a fantastic period for the club and for me personally, and some of the relationships and people I met. So, Hull's always been a really, strong, have a strong affinity with the area. And one of the things that I always is surprised because not many players do it is going from east to west in Hull and going from KR to FC. You didn't play for them for long. Was that a difficult decision? I would imagine that would have been quite interesting.
Tough period of my career, really. I got hurt. I played against Leeds on a Friday night for Hull KR, and a very rare break that I happened to make. I got tackled by, I think, Danny Maguire from behind, and I ruptured my AC joint in my shoulder. And I was coming to an end of my deal, and they wanted to let me go, so I left. And that's probably my first introduction properly to Featherstone was when I met Rich Agar and signed at Hull FC. And I had to wait for a passport, which, as you understand, things can take a while with the Home Office. So I had to wait, and I only got a very limited opportunity at Hull, but one which I had a really good time at.
And coaching, obviously, was that then after playing comes to an end? Was that just a natural progression for you, or was that something that from when you were young that you always wanted to go into?
No, I wouldn't say young. I'd say Parramatta opened my eyes a lot. When I played at the Tigers, it was a different style of club, and Wayne Pearce was our coach. Some absolutely fantastic memories, but it was a real old school club, built on good work ethic and hard work, and you used to go to the pub during the week still, and you trained at night. Compared to when I went to Parramatta, which was like the Manchester United of rugby league in Sydney, all the facilities, all the money. And Brian probably opened my eyes to what coaching was like and what was needed. And, it's the first time I thought about it. I got a taste of it as a captain coach at Hull KR, and it was mid-season at Widnes, which I wasn't really enjoying, that Rich Agar rang us up and said, listen, our assistant coach has left. Would you be interested in taking the job? And I wasn't planning on retiring, but I thought it was too good of an opportunity to miss.
And what about Featherstone Rovers? How did that all come about for you?
I remember we were doing actually an alternative session, Hull KR, at Pontefract Squash Club. And we've been there many years for some good coaching down there, something different. And Dav Longo rang me and said, look, looks like Ryan Carr has a possibility of going home. Would you be interested in a chat? So I said, yeah. I've knew Dav from Wakefield. Obviously, I've known Mark for probably since 2008 or 9. So we got together and in a pub, and we had a chat a couple of weeks later. And it took a little bit of time, but we slowly got there.
I like that the deals are just done in a pub. I think that's just the perfect way, isn't it, really? Not that you could do that at the moment, but Greg, was your deal done in a pub?
Well, it was actually. It was. There's been a few conversations in a few pubs, I think. I think it's where Mark gets most of his best work done, I think.
We've got lots still to come on this episode. We'll be talking about the 2021 season, what the recruitment's like, and pre-season training as well.
This is Up the Rovers.
Episode 2 of the Up the Rovers podcast, and we're with the head coach James Webster and the strength and conditioning coach, of course, Greg Stebbings on this one. Let's talk some injuries, because I suppose, Greg, if we come to you first of all, the lockdown gives probably a little bit of a chance for any of those injured players just to sort of like get over those injuries and be back fighting fit.
Yes, yeah, it's been good. It's in the same, it's been good and it's been bad. Obviously, as Webber alluded to before, the last pre-season we had was pretty horrific behind the scenes in terms of player availability, and it was just one of those pre-seasons where, after reaching the grand final and near enough playing and training for 11 months effectively, you had players that needed to refresh and catch up on a few niggles that had probably played through and shouldn't have played through towards the back end of 2019. So we had a couple of ankle clean-outs. Obviously, Brad Day suffered that injury at York. And we had Conor Kerr at the time again, who was nursing a syndesmosis injury. So we had a few players off. But given the lockdown, by the time it came around after Hunslet, I think obviously we'd signed Thomas Mins, and he'd had another fracture to his foot, and he was getting over that, which always takes a bit longer when it's a re-injury of an existing injury. So he was just about ready to play. John Davis just about ready to play. But that initial lockdown in March, April gave them that extra time where instead we were a bit umming and ahhing whether they were okay or not. That extra, especially in the terms of Thomas Minzy, we're talking about bone healing, which is, you need time. It's not nothing that I can do or anyone else. He just needs time, and luckily he's bought that time with, well, unluckily he's asked for a pandemic to do so, but he got him some time. So now this time around, we are pretty much on deck, really. We've got everyone available. Brad Day. So on the flip side, Brad Day's come along great. His was a 12-month injury anyway, with the meniscus damage that came along with his cruciate ligament injury. But what he's lost out on is contact time in terms of hopping, change of direction, one-to-one stuff with me. So while he did come to Ponty Park and did some stuff, he's lost that density of training week to week to week, with more than one session a week with physio or with me. So on the flip side, where it has benefited some, it has hindered a few. So Brad Day's not far off, don't get me wrong, but he's a little bit slower at the moment because of obviously the time we've lost from training.
Yeah, because there was a few injuries, wasn't it? You mentioned obviously Brad Day there and John Davis, Del Ferguson, all injured, but so far all looking okay for 2021.
Yeah, we were really cautious by all accounts on the return to training, and I thank Webber and Matt here that they've not just listened to me, and took my opinion on board. They've just said you do what you need to do to get us ready where we can start properly making these players better and getting our systems in place. So from that first week in pre-season all the way up to Christmas, we've done training, but it's been very, very light. And it just shows that the players have been sore and they have suffered still. You're not talking about players being sick anymore in pre-season and wearing it a badge of honour. That doesn't sit right with me, and it's not something that Featherstone Rovers do while I've been here. But they've been sore, and so we've gone about it the right way. So we suffered an injury before Christmas with a new signing that again was a bone injury, really. It was an existing injury. But any soft tissue injuries we have managed to avoid, touch wood, at the moment, which shows we have maybe too cautious. I can take that on board because you can always get better, but if you go too far, you can never get that time back. So we haven't done that, which is great. And as of right now, that you're looking at maybe 2 or 3 players that won't be available for selection for that first game. Still planning on the 27th of February, 28th of February is the first game. They won't be available for that, but you're talking 26 players available for them for starting 17 shirts.
Wow, that's really good news. Actually, question for both of you as well on training, because you get to see these guys sort of week in, week out, day in, day out at training. Who's the best trainer?
Well,
Don't all answer at once.
I reckon we have different reasons.
Okay.
Go on, Webber, you pick first for what you think the best trainer.
Oh, to tell you the truth, I wouldn't say we had any real bad trainers, to tell you the truth. I think the commitment and ethic that these players show to go to work and turn up and train's been really good. If you're talking all-round ability for training, as in attitude and also performance for fitness and attention to detail, then Harrison, it's been really good for us. I wouldn't say attention to detail is Hardy's strongest asset, but he's extremely fit and tries really hard in his aerobic stuff. And they all try hard in the gym. They all like the gym. The new players that have come have all been good. I've had some really good conversations. Connor Jones has been outstanding with his physical conditioning before Christmas. Spoke to New Brown. He looks in good shape since he's arrived. Frankie Holton, Calfield. I'm looking forward to seeing how they progress also.
Greg, what about you?
Yeah, I'd probably say the same with Iro. James Harrison, he trains hard and he had a few injuries at the back end at the start of 2019 that he's managed to sort of work hard, and it just shows with the downtime that he came into the Leeds Rhinos setup during the lockdown, and he didn't look out of place by all accounts. And I know Webber was involved in that setup, but by all accounts from obviously Richard Agar, and obviously you've seen him on Sky playing, he's slotted in there, and that's testament not to me or any other people. It's the work that he did himself away from training. So he's up there. Brett Ferries, you can tell he's just been places, and he's just been at a level where he knows what to do and how to do it and when to dial it up and when to turn it down. So he looks after himself. He's a real good trainer. But like Webber said, I can't, since the time I've been at Featherstone, I can't give any of these boys any more credit. The way that they go to work, and they're not sat at a desk, they're brickying, the labourers, and they turn out on a Tuesday and a Thursday. On a Monday, I ask them to come in to do stuff when it's in season for recovery or extras, whether they need to put on size or get fitter in pre-season, and just take it in the stride and do it. So they all get a pat on the back and a massive thumbs up from me in terms of training and work ethic.
I think that's good. That's good. I just wanted to check that obviously 2021, obviously, as you say, Greg, hopefully end of February, that's when we're going to be getting back underway again. James, I've come to you first of all. How difficult was it, certainly during that sort of like Super League question on what was going to be the club that goes into Super League? Obviously, we know that's now Lee. But was that difficult from preparation point of view, or did you just not take too much notice of what was going on, not knowing which league you were going to be in at the time?
I can't talk for the players. I'm sure some of the players had some question marks in their mind, especially those that have really good jobs and are probably towards the back end of their careers, and probably why they would have loved to have a taste of Super League and tested themselves in Super League. They probably understood that it wasn't the right thing for them at this stage in their career. Personally, as a staff, we didn't talk about it at all. I've learned a long time ago that, control what you can control, and we had no say in what that verdict was going to be. So it didn't change what was needed to be done should we get the yes to go into Super League. So we just prepared as if we were playing in the Championship. Train as hard as you could for as long as you could. We adhered to all the COVID rules, and it's a very slow start for us, but one there we wanted to be as safe as possible and get the players to understand the seriousness of what you need to do now as a rugby league player during these very weird times.
Yeah, very weird times indeed. And I suppose you must be just like, James, you must be just sort of chomping at the bit, because we sort of like started a few games last season. It looked like, Featherstone were looking pretty damn good. You must have been you must be chomping at the bit just to get back out there and on that field and get that team going again.
Yeah, last year I never thought we had a chance other than London away to see if we can play or not. As I said, we had a really poor pre-season.
Yeah.
For what we want to achieve anyway. We had on roughly 7 or 8 players on average at training. We used to rely heavily on leads in our recruitment, and we didn't. We only had probably 19 players on our books last year, other than some younger players that were in the reserves the year before. And when you take 6 or 7 people out through injuries, we only really had around 10 players at best that were able to train. So add that towards what was a extremely wet early or late winter. Every game we seemed to play was on a heavy pitch and really bad weather, except for London. I had no idea what sort of standard we were at, really. So I was looking forward to trying to get some good weather and some extended period of training with a decent side. And this pre-season is a lot different. We have 26 what I would consider all genuine players that can compete hard at the championship, and our focus and our ability to train during pre-season in the next couple of weeks or next 6 weeks leading up to the comp is going to be a lot better and a lot more high quality. So I'm really keen to get going as soon as the government allows us to do so. Yeah,
Greg, I'd imagine you just can't wait to get back out there again, can you, really, and just start working with players again?
Well, yeah, it's not what we signed up for, really, as my job. It's been nice to not travel up the M62, I won't lie, but it's a lot nicer when you're on game day and it's 5 o'clock and you're singing winning song because your lads have put a team of like London Broncos away in their own ground. So it'll be a lot nicer to get back to it and, like you say, getting in a game week and prepping and just working towards ultimately what we hope is a successful season in 2021. Yeah, can't wait, really.
Yeah, I think we all can't wait, really. We're going to have a look ahead as well to the recruitment. It's been pretty good. We'll have a chat about pre-season training as well, and maybe get some of those tips from Greg about what you could do to keep yourself fit in lockdown. He'll have some Stebbings tips for you. Don't forget, of course, the 2021 Unfinished Business memberships are now on sale, celebrating 100 years of Featherstone Rovers. The club want to inspire the next generation of supporters, so they're giving away Junior Rovers 16 or under memberships for free. All you need to do is register on the online superstore.
You're listening to the Up the Rovers podcast.
Episode 2 of the Up the Rovers podcast, and we are with the head coach James Webster and the full-time strength and conditioning coach Greg Stebbings. Let's talk recruitment, because there's been some fantastic recruitment over this last 6 or 9 months since we've last been together at Post Office Road. So, James, coming to you, how much of an influence have you had in the sort of players that are coming in?
Yeah, look, the club have been good. I have to say thanks to the board, Mark, Davin, the rest of the board for supporting some of the players that I wanted to identified and what thought we could make our squad better. We had a lot of our players were already on 2-year deals from before when I came, and this is the last year of their deal this year. But I thought we were able to add some experience, but also I think a key element of what I wanted to try and recruit this year was people who had some progression in them and some players that were on the up. And I think we've done that with blokes such as Cal Field and Frankie Holton from Swinton. Add to that a couple of young kids from Cass and Leeds that will be able to, they really got some hunger to become full-time rugby league players. And if you not only want to win a competition, but also then be able to assemble a squad in Super League, and you're not a full-time squad already whilst you're playing the championship, you need some players that are going to be willing to take that step up with you and still have some improvement in them. So we definitely tried to buy some younger and hungrier players.
I suppose it's all about that blend, isn't it, really, between sort of like real good experienced players and then those younger, hungrier players as well for you.
I think we've done that. Obviously, Chris Wellham's been a great signing for us. Played in the Super League Grand Final and the Challenge Cup Final in the last 2 years. My relationship with Chris goes back a long way. We had a short stint of playing together when we were at Hull. He was to start in, and I could say I was probably coming towards an end. But Chris has been a fantastic player. His strike rate of tries to games is as good as you're going to see in the game, really. So he's got some good experience for us. We already had some experience in our team in the likes of Brett Ferris, but we've brought some competent people that understand their way around the game. New Brown is going to be a bit of an X factor for us. He's played 5 tests for Samoa against some of the big countries as well, and played nearly 40 games in the NRL. And add to that, your Chris Wellhams, Connor Jones coming back, Cowfield, Holton, Tom Holmes was a great buy for us because of his versatility. So we got a pretty strong squad that can cover a lot of adversity during what's going to be a tough season.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough season. Greg, some of those players you would have worked with before, Tom Holmes coming back over and was with us a few years ago, and he was certainly, when I was watching Tom Holmes the last time he was at Fev, he was a fantastic player. Hopefully he's not lost any of that, I'm thinking.
No, I think he's more excited than ever, really, because obviously Huddersfield didn't work out for one reason or other last year for him. He didn't get as much game time, and obviously he didn't fit into the plans for next year. So I think he holds Featherstone pretty in high regard. And like you say, he came back on dual or on loan in 2019. He did really well for us. He was obviously key in that Summer Bash game. And you look at Conor Curry's try-scoring record when Holmesy was in the team and when he wasn't. I think Conor Curry was screaming for him to come back last year when he first started. But and then even before he left for Huddersfield, he's obviously got that gig on the back of his performance back in when we won the Shield. So obviously he got that knee injury. I think Tom just he's wanting to make up some lost time for injury and not being able to play at a standard he's wanting to play. He had some off-field issues that hopefully he's managed to navigate. So I think all into all, it points to a good Tom Holmes for Featherstone Rovers in 2021.
And James, I wanted to just touch, you spoke a little bit about New Brown. There's a lot of excitement about New being over. What's he been like since he's over now and enjoying the snow, I would imagine, or has enjoyed the snow a little bit?
Yeah, he's originally from Christchurch, so I gather he's seen a little bit of the adverse weather before, but I think he's lived in Sydney now for something like 15 or 16 years, so it's a shock for him. It was cold the other day, but he seems a real positive person. We spoke on the phone weekly when he was obviously in Australia and New Zealand, and he's been doing lots of training. He's a very positive person. He's already has some friends in and around West Yorkshire, so that's fantastic for him to be able to settle in and get used and acclimatise to what can be a tough winter sometimes. So I'm looking forward to seeing him play. I've spoken to, when I ring around Super League clubs to see if any players were available, a lot of CEOs were very keen to talk about New and about how they thought we had a really good signing there.
A question for both of you. I mean, you may have had this when you were playing as well, James, but when a new player comes in, are there any sort of initiations, things that would happen to a new player when they come in? Greg, anything that you see that the FEV players are doing when they see a new signing come through the doors?
COVID's put paid to that, unfortunately, I think, on a lot of things. But I've obviously been in a few training environments where you either sing a song or you've got to tell somebody something tell someone you've never told anyone else before, which has raised a few eyebrows in the past, or just general pranks. I think I saw on Instagram. This isn't obviously any Featherstone lads, but I think Reece Martin and Conrad Hurlo at Leeds managed to con New Brown that he had to wear gloves when he landed. Like the nursing gloves. So he got in the car with those on, and they said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he was like, "Oh, I thought you had to wear gloves over in the UK with COVID," and they just burst out laughing. I think, obviously, I don't know the ins and outs, but I think they're just general pranks like that seem to get all the new lads that they don't really know the script very well. They just take it as gospel, but I think COVID's put a paid to a lot of that, but I think people like Blackie and Holmesy and that, they'll still have the way somehow.
We'll look forward to those. James, did you have any initiations when you came over from Australia? Did they do anything to you?
Well, it was different back then. We were, used to play on every Sunday. Used to go out on Sunday night. Was a big night in those days, and we had a group of blokes who worked hard and also partied hard as well. So we had some good times, but it's all been pretty quiet so far. To tell you the truth, I think the boys, as you said, with the COVID and those type of situations, haven't really been able to get in and mix, and we haven't been able to chance to have a beer or any type of Christmas party this year. We, with the restrictions that were going on, we weren't able to mix like that. So I'm sure as time goes on, the boys will square up with a few of the new boys, and they'll get to feel what it's like to join a new club.
We'll look forward to that. There was no Zoom Christmas party for Featherstone Rovers then. They're not all them cracked up to be fair. It's not that fun.
Maybe they had their own, but I wasn't invited anyway.
I wasn't invited
either. Let's just talk pre-season training. We've touched on a little bit about the pre-season. Late November, early December when you started. Greg, did you have to do something different for pre-season this year rather than you would do normally every single year?
Yeah, massively. Normally pre-season, you'd come in, you'd do your testing and you'd work off sort of a baseline, and then 7, 8 weeks down the line, you'd give yourself a pat on the back because everyone's got better at the tests you do. But this year is a bit different because we've not had 4, 6 weeks off of a normal off season. We've had 9 months off in some cases. And whilst they did do some running and things like that, no contact, no high load. They've been doing only a limited amount of movements that they can get to in the home or a local gym. So now, this is just my opinion. Obviously, I saw a few things on social media with different clubs about them introducing players back to training and the usual bench press, things like that in the gym. I've tried to stay away from that because these boys have been doing press-ups and single-arm bench press and things, single-arm dumbbell press for 9 months at home. So I need to expose them to something that they've not had for the last 9 months to get them ready to play rugby. So we've tried to incorporate a lot more, and it gets bandied around a lot, but sport specific, rugby specific, but generally things moving laterally and just different movements that they've not necessarily been exposed to, running 5k down the local park for the last 9 months. So that's been different. And then just general build up has been very, very slow. We'd like to play small-sided games, and I do know clubs have played small-sided games and they haven't got injuries. That's great. But me as a conditioner and our staff, we weren't confident enough to say that our lads definitely will not get injured if we do this. So we didn't want to risk too much too soon. We've gone really slow, and the proof will be in the pudding, I guess. We think we've done the right thing. There's a lot of evidence from the NFL from years ago when they had a strike. They had a short-term lockout, they called it, where they had no training. As soon as they came back to games, you're looking at 5, 6, 7 Achilles ruptures now. That isn't something that a club like Featherstone, or a Super League club for that matter, can shoulder that burden in terms of availability for players or the cost of sorting those things out. So we saw the data from Bundesliga, NRL, Super League, Premier League, and we just didn't want to take that risk. So we did go a lot slower and a lot more cautious this pre-season, but hopefully it'll pay off in the long term.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. James, when it comes to pre-season, when you were a player, was there a part of pre-season that you loved, or was there a part of the pre-season that you hate? I always hear from players, hills is the thing that they detest.
I liked hills, actually. Hills were a smaller person's dream, really. Could get up them a lot easier, but two totally different pre-seasons. One was obviously in Australia, which was double the length of time, and the heat, which is unbearable at times. When you come to England, obviously pre-season's horrible. I remember one day, one of my early sessions, a whole car, we couldn't train on the pitch because it was too wet. So we went on a road run, and it was snowing down near the docks in East Hull, and I had about 10 layers on, and I was just thinking, what am I doing? I just can't believe I'm doing this. But yeah, I actually enjoyed pre-season. There is a feeling as a player. There's nothing better than feeling rock hard fit. And generally, you play your best rugby when you are fit. And for those who think they can rock up and just play rugby and play at their highest level without a really good pre-season, it's extremely rare. The amount of work and preparation you get your body and your mind also into over that either 2, 3, 4 months, depending how long or what country you're in, is vital to how well you play, in my opinion.
And Greg, is there part of pre-season that you absolutely love putting players through? Do you like seeing them hurting a little bit?
I like not punishing. That's the wrong word. It's just sounding a bit sadistic, doesn't it? Those players that haven't looked after themselves, they've only got themselves to blame for the pain they suffer. So for those that don't do anything, unfortunately, then I do take pleasure in seeing them really struggle early on. Because look, we could have all had an holiday, mate, but just we didn't. Only you did, so you've got to pay the price.
Before we move on and sort of close up, there's obviously everybody's in a lockdown now. They've just come out of Christmas. Our bodies are mainly built up of trifle and pigs in blankets. Greg, what are the lockdown keeping fit tips do you think that Fev fans should be adhering to over the next sort of like 6 weeks?
Stop eating trifle and pigs in blankets. It's the 7th of January. You're only allowed to do that for about 5 days of every year, and you're taking the mick, frankly, if you carry on doing that. You just need to get out and exercise in general. Everyone knows running, exercise makes you happy, endorphins, and obviously with mental health is an issue right now with obviously the lockdown that's gone on nigh on 12 months. So do what you can. That's all you need to do. No one's asking you to do anything great. Don't break any records, but just get out there, isn't it? Just do 20, 30 minutes, whatever you can do, raise your heart rate and keep going day by day.
There we go. Sound advice. Although trifle and pigs in blankets, always good, Greg. It's always good.
Trifle, no. I'm not a trifle fan. Pigs in blankets, I'll be there. I'm with you on that one. But trifle, I am... No chance.
There's a man that hasn't tasted the sticky toffee pudding trifle that Marks and Spencer's do. I'm just saying. But
Marks and Spencer's? No chance. No chance.
Right, okay. Predictions, goals for 2021. James, you obviously set yourself goals, but what is your goal for 2021 and Featherstone Rovers? If season continues and goes ahead as planned, what is your goal as a coach and for a team of Featherstone Rovers for this year?
Well, I think any good coach will tell you that the ultimate goal is always to improve their players, improve themselves also as a coach. And I think all the years I've coached, I've been able to take something from it and better myself. But you have to better your players, and that generally culminates into better performances for your team. I look at the strength of our squad, and I consider us to be a good chance of being one of the major players towards the back end of the year. If you look at the structure of the playoffs, first and second is a fantastic advantage, and we're under no illusions that this is a very tough, strong league where there's 14 good teams, but there's probably 7 really major players that are going to be extremely hard to beat, home and away. So we need to be good over a long period of time to finish not only in that top 6, but to finish hopefully in that first or second position to give us our best chance to get into that final.
Yeah, let's all hope that happens, because I think after we sort of tasted that grand final the last time, that £1 million game, I think everybody wants another piece of that. I think no doubt about that. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on episode 2 of Up the Road. It's been a real pleasure to chat with you both. Stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you at the Millennium Stadium sooner rather than later, I'm hoping.
Hopefully.
Yep, let's hope. Everyone stay safe, and we appreciate your support, and we look forward to being able to hopefully repay that support with some good performances when we get back out there.
Thanks very much for downloading this episode 2, of course, of the Up the Rovers podcast. Thanks to our main club partners, KP, Millennium Support, Went Valley Aggregates and Wakefield AFC. A massive thank you to LS11 Media and Proper Sport, of course, producers of the podcast. And one final reminder as well, 2021 unfinished business memberships are now on sale. Celebrating 100 years of Featherstone Rovers, the club want to inspire the next generation of supporters, so they're giving away Junior Rovers, that's 16 or under memberships, for absolutely nothing. Nada, nicked. It's free. Register on the online superstore right now. We'll be back very soon with episode 3 of Up the Rovers. Thanks very much for downloading this one.
You're listening to the Up the Rovers podcast.